Mr. Funk?
Yes.
Mr.
Here.
Perez?
Here.
Mrs. Walker?
Here.
Mrs. Newman?
Here.
Mr. Eckert?
Here, please stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you all for being here. Matt, make yourself comfortable. Any chair you want. Plenty of options.
He always sits in the same
He
spot.
He
does.
does. It's his favorite spot.
Generally.
He's trying to keep his head off the camera.
Like that's his chair.
You're trying to keep your head out of the camera.
If anybody ever tried to take that seat, I think we would tell them like they're not allowed.
If you like the Sheldon seats.
Matt, you're doing a good job. It's been like 2 years strong, wouldn't you say? It's a good job. We appreciate it.
Okay, administrative reports, PTA. Anyone here to say anything on behalf of PTA? I hear everything's going well with PTA. So,
I think we met, they're still in their membership drive, I believe, right? I think membership's pretty good, right, from what you hear?
cool. All right, awesome. Polaris.
We had our meeting on Tuesday, and a lovely dinner cooked by the students,
Looked very good.
As you saw, my
as you
Yeah.
saw, and we weren't trying to make you feel like you should have been there. We were just trying to show you what the kids did. But the big news out of Polaris is we have hired a new superintendent, or we're currently negotiating the contract, but it's it's Diane Zander. She was, the search was all internal. She's the former or current Director of Innovation and Career Development at Polaris, and has a tremendous amount of admin experience, and I think she will do a great job. And that's about it.
I think it's a fine choice.
You and every other superintendent, apparently.
I think we all wrote letters
Yep.
of recommendation. I believe we did.
We did not have any kids in the culinary program that
Oh,
evening.
really?
Yeah, which is surprising, but, you know, still, it was great. But we did have an alumni who graduated last year. Their like corporate Bright Star Corporation was Clark Reliance, and we had a Bulldog alum that interned there, is a welder, she got a full-time job there.
She was like the top welding student last year at the.
Oh, yeah, I
Harkema.
remember.
Ava Harkema, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Ava,
yeah,
yeah.
Yeah,
Know the Harkema family, and she's,
Yeah.
yeah, she's awesome.
she's like a girl boss, man.
She
Oh,
is.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, anyway, that was really cool. And like their presentation of Park Reliance was amazing.
It really is, it highlighted, it's like a pipeline to employment to Polaris. That how they work with the community industries and get the programs that they need, teach students, give them hands-on experience. They do have a number of students that are now interning, and I think, I forget the total number, but there are 12 Olmsted Falls students now that will be interning now at actual companies in their program. That was also announced.
That's great, and then they have that program the new program, right, the nursing program that they're gonna do with
Adults.
Southwest, yeah,
Mhm.
and then they have the vet
The
thing.
new
So
veterinary opened, and
it's a great place. I mean, it has a lot of resources, and it does great things for our kids.
it really is an asset, not just for the students, but for the community.
Absolutely, it'd be great.
Awesome. Any other questions? Thank you, Kelly. Brian?
Good evening. Kind of have a lot going on. We have open enrollment coming up.
Some I can tell you, some I can't.
So we have open enrollment coming up. We're all set for that. That's November 1st through the 8th for the district.
Open enrollment for what, Dr. Sal?
Health insurance,
Okay.
so all your benefits, things like that. So big thanks to Karen Mendelwick and Beth Tracy in my office. They put a ton of work into getting that set and ready to roll, so I appreciate their efforts there.
How bad is the premium increase?
What are we, 6% last
Oh,
year?
that's not bad at all.
Yeah, right. So it's not the 14s we paid. for
Yeah,
the
it's-
previous
Yeah.
year. So
Very good.
that's-
That went in July 1st.
Yeah. So that was part of the work that Brett did with the COG for the rate stratification. So we'll never really see the zero kind of thing, but should avoid the super high things. So, it was a great idea, and then Kyle kind of ran with it, so, and, I'm not trying to toot Brett's horn, but I think he was kind of the driver behind, like, hey, guys, how about this? So, that's kind of good.
And so barring, on that topic, I think barring any catastrophic illnesses amongst staff, you know, I would anticipate like a 6 for the coming year and maybe a 5 after that. 5's kind of the benchmark.
Makes it
I
less
think your days of
predictable for you.
zeros,
Yeah.
your days of zeros are pretty well gone. And you know, our thought is if we can have some consistency in small chunks each year, you know, it's better than going 0, 0, 14 or 20.
Yeah.
For sure. Awesome.
We had our first Lean Six Sigma meeting. That was fun. So obviously I'm taking that over for Kelly. That kind of gets me back in front of kids because it's been a little bit of time since I was a high school principal. So it's always fun to see kids who, you know, they do awesome things and come in and watch. And I think if anyone failed during that meeting, it was probably me because I purchased for how I normally would a meeting and not for high school teen boy appetite. So we were running a little low. But,
Oh, you messed up the food?
noted for the future. Because we normally order food and there's a ton of leftovers, and then they came in and they were willing to make a taco out of anything, so they were pretty good. So, but no, we're excited with that. You know, we have all of our dates for the fall and next spring set up for those cohorts. The students will be coming in December to present and hopefully be awarded their yellow belts for earning that. So it's a really neat thing to be a part of. And I would say the other big thing which I wanted to talk about would be Senate Bill 29, which went live today. I think there's a lot of concern around the legislation. Speaking with an attorney, their words to me were, in their 24 years of practice, this is the single worst piece of legislation they've ever seen, and that's saying a lot for Ohio. So those were their words, not mine, but it kind of drives home the point of the legislation, at least in how we interpret it and the guidance we have received from our attorneys, is really unmanageable for our building principals. It requires us to send home notices basically anytime we monitor a student's device, whether that's keystrokes, any of our third-party things that flag concerning student emails, things like that, we're required within 72 hours to send home a notice. The penalties for failing to send home that notice are pretty severe. It's a report to the Office of Professional Conduct. It opens the district and the teacher or administrator up to civil liability. And then obviously, if there's any district punishment. It's causing a lot of stress for our teachers and really all of our staff. So here are some examples in speaking with our attorneys. If you go into a student's drive, teacher, I can't find my document. Here, let me see your computer, we'll go on the drive. You know, what do you think you named it? And I go in and I help a student in their drive to find a document. That would say, hey, I accessed your student's information, that's a trigger notice. When our tech department goes into the Google console to update things and, you know, maybe update some emails and look at various things to make sure settings are good, have access to your child, there's a trigger notice.
Do they do that every month? Do they do that every 2 weeks?
Well, we're required, the tech department,
It's a loaded question.
hundreds of times in a
Yeah.
week, yeah. So now, the other question was, and it was a great question from our intervention specialists. You know, my students are cognitively disabled. I am helping them to find their stuff on a daily basis. Do I need to send this trigger notice? You do. So when you factor in our student population with needs, who are getting help from their teachers, our young learners at the ECC in Falls, who basically the teachers on the daily are helping them or helping them navigate certain things. You look at any any web search that our security browsers may flag, which in the past year, we've had 17,000 of those. The difficulty, and Jim alluded to it, is we are essentially in a position where, in an effort to best protect our teachers in the district, we're essentially required to spam our families every night for events that occurred the day before. So the law went live today. Essentially, within 72 hours, we would be sending a notice home to every family saying, in some form or fashion, we have accessed your child's drive or looked at their information. And quite frankly, it's going to upset people in the community because they're like, why am I getting these emails all the time? And the answer is because none of us want to lose our license to satisfy the provisions of this law.
And we can't undo that until they fix it. And so, thankfully, the people that I reached out to contacted me immediately, and so I'm supposed to have a conversation with Senator Dolan like next week. I think he had like hip surgery, so he couldn't come in and meet, but he said I'd be very willing to listen to any suggestions you have as far as amendments go. And so you get all that information and you get it to them and say, please fix this. And then, so we're going to create a letter to send to families that will, I think there may be two. The first will be we're going to spam you, and we're sorry that this is going to happen, but here's why. And then I think they're going to get it. That letter that
Well, yeah,
Brian spoke to.
and everybody's gonna get the.
And as this is obviously just an Olmsted Falls
No,
phenomenon,
it's
this is
everywhere.
everywhere. So, yeah. I don't know if people are going to send a letter like we are daily, but, you know.
I'm sure it'll end up like in the media, and they'll report on this to say like, because you know, this can affect a lot of people, right?
This impact, I mean, with the administrators, when Brian was relaying, because Brian's our resident Senate Bill 29 expert, when he was relaying the information to them, and they asked the questions of, well, what about? And he said, well, here's the interpretation from the attorney. They weren't very happy with it.
Yeah, I would say
That's why we call him the
they
brain.
kind of
brain
fall on the
brain.
less than pleased side of things. And then when we talked about, well, hey, let's talk about this PD day, and I'm like, look at how upset you are, and we want to go in a room with 250 teachers and say,
Yeah.
oh, hey, by the way, I have a family, I want to live. So, you know, and I think what we tried to do with the staff, and I think this,
Joy was trying to get in and nobody heard her knocking. You want me to go try and track her
Joyce?
down? Joy?
Oh,
Oh,
she was knocking on that door. Oh, why is the door shutting? Oh, because we had loud.
the
And
administrators.
I heard pounding, but the football team is going nuts out there, so.
Okay. I had no idea.
what we tried to convey with our message yesterday is do the best you can. Err on the side of caution, and as long as you're not being willful and negligent, and you're just saying, yeah, I'm not doing it, we'll do our best to have you back and protect you. And we understand and respect your frustrations, because we're right there with you. And again, at the end of the day, nothing changes. My biggest fear with this is there has been so much fear put into what can happen to you if you do it incorrectly, that something that would be important, whether it's here or someplace else, could get missed. Because people are like, I'm not going to look at this screen ever. I'm not going to look at anything ever.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to get caught with this. And then some sort of threat to safety occurs. Because at the end of the day, they're not going to blame the bill, they're going to blame us. And that's my biggest concern with this, is because we want kids to be safe. So it's a fear.
Okay.
Maybe
I
the
know, I know.
maybe the spam message should include a link to or phone numbers of our elected officials.
Well, we are, in our general message,
If they have a
I
problem
think
with
it
they
was,
can go
the
read
bill
all
was
that.
linked, and so you go there, I mean, and it's Matt Huffman's cousin, and Stephen Huffman's the one who sponsored the bill, but it was unanimously passed by both groups, and so And then what I wanna know is like, did anybody read it or go, hey, what do you guys think about, what do you think about
Of course
this?
they did.
You know, it's got good intentions, it was just poorly written. Really poorly written. Generally, whenever they give it to like VASA or OSBA or other legislative liaison groups to get an eyes on it, then it gets corrected, but I don't know what happened with this one.
This one, I mean, well, it also came through pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
other
it's something
thing.
that-
It did, it was a summer.
And became law today.
Mm.
So,
I forget, when is lame duck, do you know? Look at you, Matt.
After the
Usually,
election,
like,
after the election, and then
Yeah.
before. So in between.
So it's between
November-
November 5th and the 1st of
Yeah.
January, right?
Yeah. Because all those people will still be there. even though-
Yeah, so hopefully
Even though they might have gotten, yeah.
that'll get done then, but until then, we still have to hold on and send notices. So, we're sorry in advance.
Great. Thank you, Brian.
Maybe somebody should suggest, can you provide some additional funding for schools to be able to adhere to Senate Bill 29?
Principals were really upset because they're like, you know, what this is gonna do, we won't have to have somebody manage this, like, in our building, like, all the time. County notices and stuff, so it's just,
And phone calls from parents.
that,
and-
that kind of thing, and I try to explain it to you, it's just,
It is public only? Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty much,
Nice.
yeah. So
Good
there's
job,
that.
good job again, guys.
That's been annoying for me.
and just as an example, one of our principals did send me the draft of the notice they're going to be sending out. And it was just, our tech department was helping set up a new student's computer and needed to use their username and password to get them logged in. By the
Yeah, that's a
letter of the
trigger.
bill, we access their information, we have to send it.
Not the intent of the law, but that's how it's operated.
All right. Thank you, Brian. Oh, let's back up. Hi.
Sorry we
Sorry,
locked you
door was
up.
locked, I understand safety. So,
You got
it's
a
also
hot
very
one.
loud in the cafeteria, so I understand.
PTA report?
I do have a PTA report, if that's, thank you, I appreciate it. I promised I wouldn't do this again. All right, wanted to focus this month, report on what PTA units are doing for fundraising, which our ultimate goal is to raise money for senior scholarships. OEC PTA has a fundraiser at Razzles on Saturday, November 9th. And it's an all-you-can-eat wingding, basket raffle, 50/50 drawing. It's on their page. I think council has shared it as well, so the link is there for that. Falls Lennox just finished their Raise Craze fundraiser, which we talked about earlier in the year. And Chrissy Pettit, the president, says 306 Flex students completed more than 1,200 acts of kindness over 3 weeks as part of the Flex ECC PTA fundraiser. Completing good deeds and paying it forward is a way for our students to say thank you to those who made a donation and provided their support. In total, we raised $22,908 and will receive $20,912 in funds to be used towards field trips, program assemblies, teacher grants, and senior scholarships. And they are all incredibly thankful.
$20,000.
That's pretty great. Wow.
Keep your eye on Chrissy Pettit, she's phenomenal. They have a Bulldog swag shop open right now, also. OFIS PTA is currently in a membership drive, heading the 4th graders versus the 5th graders to see which classroom will score the most and get the most memberships throughout the year. That ends October 31st, and then they plan to do a Senate fundraiser. Middle school PTA on November 4th, they're going to start their Give Thanks drive. Students will be able to purchase thank you grams during lunch or online to send a message to other students, teachers, and staff. They will be passed out during STAR period with a small allergen-free treat bag of candy. And then they have a gift card for Dave & Buster's Power Card sale starting in end of November. High school PTA is doing a Dine to Donate at Buffalo Wild Wings. That is
next Monday, the 28th. And they are also working with Olmsted Laser Wash to sell gift cards for car wash packages. And then finally, PTA Council is currently running a fall fundraiser, 50/50. I believe we were about $375 raised. It ends tomorrow. And that money, of 386 so far. And half of that goes to the winner, the other half goes towards senior scholarships. It'll be drawn tomorrow night at 7 p.m. And then finally, they will be doing a Red Cedar Coffee fundraiser, which will be coming up come winter time. So if you check out our council Facebook page and obviously community pages, you'll see those kinds of things. But it's all money toward things for the units, for the kids, and the things that Knox especially is doing. And then with middle school, promoting kindness and good deeds is really found on everything that is the Bulldog Way. So that's our report for October.
Oh, that's awesome.
Thank you.
A lot of good stuff. Any questions? Thank you for your persistence in being here. We appreciate it. I blame Mr. Avens for watching.
Appreciate it, man.
Thank you. Okay.
Dr. Jones?
Good evening. So a few updates I want to share as it relates to curriculum and instruction. October 2nd, we brought together across the district in 5 buildings, each have a devoted design team who have gone through the Schlechte download. And as you know, we've been immersed with this organization since 2016. We also have a devoted district design team. We brought them together on that day for community of practice because what I've observed over the years in my former position, and we had really talked about illuminating this year, was getting everyone in the same room. Because each building is taking this and doing amazing things and just giving them the opportunity and the time to share with each other and support and learn. By the end of that day, ECC had made arrangements to go hang out with high school because they do redesign Wednesdays. We had the high school partnering with the middle school on different activities as well. So I was very proud of, I'm always proud when we get teachers and administrators together. And I remind them, no one wants to be out of the classroom, and I've said this to you many times, and I'm so grateful for the teachers that we have, that they don't want to be out of the classroom. But I remind them it's equally important that they have that time to learn from each other. And when we're in that setting, what also came out of that day was each building is establishing a research project through the Schlechte organization that by May will have a showcase here in the district. So what that day also allowed was our district design team to reprise the most salient features of the work that we've learned from Schlechte. So it allowed us all to get back on the same page, but also share with each other in the different ways that we're putting this instructional philosophy into place within each of the buildings. So I was really proud of them. What is happening then each month at DLT that Dr. Lloyd leads is we will continue to have those conversations that bridge from that community of practice. 2 other updates as it relates to the earlier grades, K to 5. Last year, Mrs. Kogan began the adoption of the newer edition of Bridges, which is our math curriculum of K to 5. So grades 3 to 5 have fully adopted as of the first day of school this year, whereas our K to 2 teachers are still in that dress rehearsal pilot stage, and they will finish that at the end of the year. So I've been working with both groups of teachers. Today, our 3 to 5th grade teachers and administrators, we all got together for the first time since the beginning of the school year, having conversations about how the new adoption is going. We took a deeper dive into new resources, and they were able to have some better conversations about the curriculum map and the assessments that go along with that new curriculum resource that they had. So it was really nice because 3rd grade falls on us, 4th and 5th is Opus, to all have them together in the same room. I think they were appreciative to have that collaborative time. And then finally, we will be piloting a K to 6 English Language Arts program this year, which I believe we touched on at the last meeting with the establishment of our Literacy Council. So all of those teachers, K to 5, general education, special education, our gifted teachers, our EL teacher will all come together next Wednesday to develop a plan. Actually, the plan is developed in terms of the pilot and the timeline, but our curriculum rep will be coming in and just holding our hand throughout the day. So we're ready to launch 1 week later and implementing this curriculum. This will add to our scope and sequence. So things are moving along. I am thoroughly enjoying the time with the teachers. So many are familiar faces. I've worked with them before, but in this new capacity, it's just really cool to see what they bring to the table and the excitement they have when we provide them resources to work with all the students. So those are some updates since we last met. Any questions? Okay.
Thank you. Brett?
So I thought it was interesting that Joy mentions BW3 as a fundraiser on the heels of Brian talking about our state legislators, what makes it to the floor, what doesn't make it to the floor. And I don't know if you've heard the recent item that they're discussing and debating heavily is, should boneless chicken wings be allowed to have any part of a bone in there?
Went to the
There's
House
a
Supreme
lot
Court.
of discussion.
Yes, I have to say.
And that is important to us.
Our Supreme Court says boneless wings are allowed to have bones.
We can have bones in it. My addition to that is, should we not allow light beer to be consumed while eating chicken wings? That's not right.
No.
But, okay, we ended, September was the end of the first quarter of the fiscal year, and we remain very much on track with our budget for the year. Revenue projections are on target. We ended September $33,000 ahead of plan. With real estate and state aid being our two largest sources of revenue, as long as those two items are on track, we usually remain good for the year, and that's exactly where we are. Collections for the month were $388,000 more than what they were for September of '23, while total collections year to date are $533,000 higher than the same period last year. Expenses are trending slightly under plan, which is good, $275,000 fiscal year to date. For September, our total spend was $327,000 less than the same period last year, while our fiscal year to date spend, July through September, is $57,000 higher for the same period last year. So when you look at, some of the things that we did coming into this year and some of the projects that we took on, settled our collective bargaining agreements and so on, the fact that we're, still looking, very similar to what we were last year, and our cash balance is increasing, I think that's a positive, healthy sign for the district. If we look at the last approved forecast, we did that back in May. We anticipated our ending cash balance of June 30th, 2025 to be $11.9 million. Based on the performance of the first quarter and what we anticipate yet for the remainder of the year, we're looking at about 12.2, 12.3 million, slightly, 300,000 slightly higher than what we anticipated. Positive news, still early in the year, a lot of things yet to happen throughout, but it's a heck of a start. We ended September with a general fund cash balance of $18,008,000. At this point last year, we were at $16,005,000, so we have about $2 million more on the books today than we did back then. Board office construction, we're ready to wrap up the first draft of our POS. That can mean a variety of things, but here it's the preliminary offering statement.
You're on fire.
That's been a long week. That's a very time-consuming, a lot of data that goes into that. They talk about the community, the county, the district specific, a lot of details on staff, board relations, student counts, all that good stuff. So it just takes a while to pull everything together. And that's coming to a close here. I should have my piece of that to Ryan Callender, hopefully tomorrow. And then he'll clean it up, reissue it. We'll take another look at it with Stiefel as well. Once that's completed, then we can arrange that rating meeting with S&P. They'll take a look at our financials. They'll grade us, you know, A, AA, AAA, whatever it may be. And then you can go out and do your issue and sale of those bonds. That rating's important for how, you know, how you're going to be, what kind of rates you're going to pay.
George, do you always have, is it always, do we always have a ratings meeting before we go out and do those things? I'm probably supposed to know the answer to that question, because I've been in those meetings with the treasurer
Yeah.
before on that. I wasn't sure if that was just something that came up from time to time, or if that.
So there's commonly, and I did not get a call last year, but commonly S&P will call.
Yeah.
They'll have a copy of your forecast that they got from the state, and they'll just, you know, ask you a variety of questions. You know, what happened here?
Done that twice.
Your cash balance is declining, or you're showing 2 years from now, you know, deficit spending. What are you doing to address that? Those kind of questions. And from that, then they could, you know, upgrade or downgrade your current rating as well. It's nice when they do that. I'm assuming, you know, the first 2 years I had calls, last year I didn't. I'm assuming maybe they've seen that stability out there, and until they see something on that forecast that gets their attention, that they'll keep us in that range.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll have to go through this again, depending on what comes out of the facilities.
Yeah.
Structure and so on. But the nice thing is, the data that we have in there now, and the narrative is out there now, the majority of that's going to apply.
Okay.
Or carry over. And this is why too, we elected to combine the refunding of current outstanding debt, because that's the same process as well. So you do it one time, that can carry over into the refunding issue, and you do the board office and the refunding together.
Okay.
It saves that time. Next week, I think it's next Tuesday, we're going to Syed's office, and we're going to start getting now into the details of the building, from furniture, colors, flooring, all that good stuff. And Syed's group can then take that detail. That helps them prepare a better spec sheet for the bidding process, and it also helps them, you know, tighten up, I think, their projections on what the total cost of that project would be. So we look forward to that. I think this is the time now, this time forward, this project gets exciting. You know, things are starting to happen. You know, Jim and Heath inside did a really nice job with that, the hearing with the zoning board. That was a big step. And, you know, now we're going to, you know, soon, you know, we'll see some dirt moving and those kind of things. It gets fun from here on out. Gap reporting, we sent the final documents to Julian Group today, so they ought to be wrapping that up. Probably in the next 10 days, we'll review their draft, and then they can submit that. The deadline for submission is the end of November, Thanksgiving weekend. Now you move into full gear with the state auditors, which we've done now. We're working. Kiney is the same team that we've had the last few years. It's a good group of people to work with, and we don't foresee any issues in the audit process. Staff development, the finance department went down to Columbus last week for 3 days, 2.5 days. It's what they call Support Con. It's the Office Support and Staff Support Conference, Support Con. This was the second annual. It was great, very good. You had all the folks there that, you know, do the same work that we do. So it was nice to network with them. Their presentations were on topic, and we all brought something home that's going to help us in the long run. So we were really encouraged with how that went. Bus acquisitions, we talked a little bit at the last meeting, and you'll see on the agenda the resolution to issue those bonds. That's a different type of a bond than what we're talking about with the construction and so on. Very similar to the lease process that we used to do with Key Bank, who got out of the business completely. By going with this bond issuance on these, the main thing is you get a lower rate. You know, they advance the money to you, you pay it back over the next 4 years at a lower rate than had we gone with an actual lease on that. So that's good. There's 2 items on there. The first item is going to be a fiscal officer's certificate that just states the purpose and life expectancy of the assets involved in the issuance are meet the eligibility requirements for the program. And then the second item is going to be the the actual adoption of the resolution, if you so desire.
And that's how
And
many
those are
buses?
separate from the consent agenda because of the nature of
How many buses?
Two. And he told us at the work session what those were maybe 2 months away yet on build. So we sometime shortly after the first year, we should have those 2 buses. Organizational meeting and 2025 meeting dates, that's an item that's on here too. I was talking with Deb, and we should start talking about what's the calendar going to look like for next year. So in your spare time, if you could, just take a minute, review that, see if there's any conflicts you may have that we need to adjust, and we can do that and take action prior to January. The main thing though on that is, and if we could do that tonight, that would be great, but set the meeting date for the organizational meeting in January. That has to be done within the first 15 calendar days of the year. So if it's possible, if we could get that, we can start getting notices ready and so on for that. And hey, just around the corner is Capital Conference, 10th through the 12th. That starts on a Sunday afternoon. Any questions?
Oh, just speaking of the conference, the principal of Polaris is going to be presenting at 1 p.m. on Sunday at conference, just an FYI.
Do you know what the topic?
No.
Okay.
The Browns are on a bye that week, not that.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Britt, what's our current rating?
Oh, yeah.
What's our current rating?
So two years ago, or I should say 3 years ago, we were actually downgraded, and that was because of the cash situation that you had. They hadn't seen the effect yet or the long-term effect of that 8.9 mil bond issue. The following year, after that discussion, they put us back up. I think we're a double A, if I'm not mistaken.
And it's like, I remember when we did the high school in 2016, we had a reissue of our bond. We were like double A minus or something. I mean,
It's a
like-
strange
it's
rating
very
system. It
strange
really is.
rating
It doesn't
system.
work like
But
you would normally.
But it was like,
cognitively
we
think
got a
about it.
very favorable rating
Yeah.
at that time. But as we could see, it ebbs and flows.
And that would be my expectation this time around too. That it's,
Yeah,
we'll be in that double A plus range,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
There's like A plus, A minus, double A.
Well, and I think it may depend too on who the rating agency is and the criteria that they come out with. And, is it
Yeah.
Moody's, is it S&P or, but I've got that, Bob. I'm gonna shoot that over to you.
Any other questions? Thank you. There's a lot of information. That's great. Dr. L.
A couple things for you. First, just wanted to let you know that, I indicated to you that Kim is doing fine. She communicated back with us through Julianne, who was her proxy, that she's hanging in there. I wanted to let you know that I'm working with Julianne in the ESC and going to appoint her. You guys don't have to take action on this, interim director of communications. She's been acting as the interim director of communications really since the beginning of the year when Kim kind of went away, and does her other things as well. And so I thought that it's important that we put those things in place because we have a lot of big things coming up relating to facilities and other things. And so appreciate the support and good work that she's been doing with all of us. So that's well earned. One of the things that she and I have been teaming up on is scheduling our first key communicators meeting for this year. And also within that, trying to sort of revitalize our roster of key communicators. We've had some people drop off and so on. So we've reached out to some new people. Some people have self-nominated, and then we have, I think, 40 people who are on the list to be key communicators, and there's some new blood that's going to come in too with some younger dads and moms too. I think it's important that we kind of keep that fresh. I also reached out to our 2 students who are at the high school in those leadership positions to give them an invite. We rescheduled the meeting thinking that maybe, we rescheduled the meeting because the Cleveland Guardians were in the ALCS and then thought maybe that they might do more, which they did not. But, so we're gonna meet, I think, in mid-November,
18.
the 18th of November, is when our next meeting is gonna be. So we'll send out an invite with all that stuff as well. That's that. Wanted to let you know, I think I may have mentioned this before, I'm working with a high school group of students and Brian Inslee on a high school front beautification project. Did I mention that ever before? Maybe not.
No.
So this is a cool thing. Brian Inslee is our AP psych teacher. And one of the things that the kids have come to him, one of the things that they studied was really facilities and kind of how things look and how that makes you feel and perform and other things, right? The front of the high school is looked that way for a very long time. It wasn't supposed to. It was supposed to change with the renovation project that we had, and there were certain things that happened with the building department that we didn't have resources for that, and so they have come up with a plan, a group of students that includes, it's not anything crazy, but it's, in the front of the building, there'd be like an arbor, there would be places to sit, there would be, local plants and trees and other kinds of nice things that are there. So we're working with Uncle John's Plant Farm. We're not sure if we're gonna get any kind of, they have a natural discount, I think it happens at the end of the year for trees anyway, so we're gonna, I think, do that. But also, whenever we had our zoning meeting, I met Syed's horticulturist, who helped to design the front of where the trees and everything else were. So we were gonna pay somebody or ask Uncle John's, but I kinda asked Syed, I'm like, hey, can you do us a solid and have somebody take a look at this plan? If it's a no, that's okay, but just let me know. So they're gonna do that, and then we're gonna look to try to, I'll use some of my city-county resources to do this in phases. I think there's like, they had 6 or 7 phases. The last phase is to get this scripted Bulldogs kind of big thing like Cleveland is, and put it in the front of the, I mean, that is about a $15,000 price tag or something like that. So that's down the road. That could potentially be a fundraiser too, but it could also be something I think that families and others would probably chip in for, I bet, if we ask people to raise resources for that. So I'll get you a copy of what that looks like. So we're still in the works with that. We want to be able to put some trees in the ground because we still think we have the time to be able to do that. We're just going to do that within the next few weeks. But so, I'm working on that with Brian and Leo and their students, and then of course Heath and Dan Bingley are involved because you don't want to do anything crazy because people mow over top of it. So you want to do it in concert with them, and also with digging,
Do
other
you
kinds of
know
things
if, so post-prom, they had some damage on a wall that post-prom we offered to pay for, and they said, no, we're okay, we can take care of it. But we had leftover funds that we asked the school what they wanted, and they said they wanted to replace benches in the front of the high school. And I sent money over. My question is, I don't know if that was ever used, if those
I don't know
benches
that
ever
either. I
in.
think that's something that
It
I'll
was
have
sent,
to
the check
ask
was
them.
sent to Heath, I know it was cash.
Okay.
So I would just ask him if that was actually spent, and if not, you might wanna, because they were talking about getting benches, replace
Okay.
benches in the front of the high school.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, this is gonna be, that's fine if we need to do something like that, obviously, but we wanna plan it to where it's gonna be potentially even an outdoor place for teachers to take kids out for class and other kinds of
So
things
my
too.
thought
it'd
is
be
if they
lighting.
haven't used those funds yet or bought
Yeah, I'll check
those,
that out, thanks, Glenn.
it might be something you could
Okay.
put, but I just remembered, because we had, apparently none of the seniors wanted to get in the money tornado thing, and we had like $1,000 left over that
Okay.
we were supposed to give to students, and so we gave it back to the high school.
I will check on that.
What? Yeah. Even my kid didn't get it. I'm like, you didn't go into the, what do you mean you didn't go into the money? I mean,
Oh, my kid went in, but I don't think she got any money.
Oh, the money tornado.
yeah, like,
Okay,
so,
get it.
I mean,
I was
half
like,
the
why were
students
those
didn't
two
even go
things
in.
connected, but now I understand.
Yeah.
It's
So
the
we
money
had-
booth.
I literally had to walk in like a drug dealer with all these like,
With-
it's like all these singles, like, no, I don't, and fives. I had to go to the bank and bring them in, and then I had to walk back out with them again.
Yeah,
'cause
that's
the kids
fun, I'm
didn't
sure you
do
got a
it.
lot of interesting questions
so-
about that.
So, yeah, no, I
Good.
mean, I felt like a drug dealer.
Well, we know you're not, so that's that.
But I'm
So that's
not,
the high
so,
school
but that's just an
beautification
FYI,
project.
I don't know if they ever did anything with that money yet, so
We'll check it out.
check it. The check went to Heath, it was
Okay.
Heath and Leo that I was dealing with.
Thank you for that. Want to make the board aware that if you go to the game on Friday, and I'm not going to like mess up the surprise or anything like that and tell you what it is, but the band is looking to do something special on that evening. And so there will be, it's a blackout essentially, all the lights in the stadium lights will be turned off. The only lights that will be on will be the scoreboard lights, probably the concession lights and a few other different things. But they're going to make an announcement to let people know that they're turning these lights off because the show on the field is going to happen. Other people who've done this before, I'm told, Leo was like, well, we're just going to pass out a flyer to let everybody know. I'm like, no flyers. Those end up on the ground and on the field and everything else. So we will, he gave me a protocol. He's talked to Dan, he's talked to Heath, he's talked to everybody about how that's going to go. So that'll be cool. And that is for the Midview game, provided that.
Katie DeShot will also be there.
Oh, she will?
That's
Okay.
right.
Oh, cool, that's right.
Buried the lead. Geez.
Yeah. That's it. And I saw that Dan painted the script of her signature and the pit as well. It's not on the field anymore, it's in the pit, which is cool. So there's that. The super eval system that Brett and I use, we've expanded that to Dr. Zeller, Dr. Goss, and Miss Bradley, that I will use that same system for them. Very similar kind of fashion. They don't have necessarily superintendent standards or those sorts of things, and so it'll be key accomplishments, 2 key accomplishments, and then it will be the system's capacity standards or the same standards that you guys use to evaluate me. There's a small cost to increase that, but I think it's the next step in using that process overall. Shameless plug for me sending you my suggested goals as well, so you don't have to like say those are good, but just wanted to put it out there that I did send those, and somebody at some point is going to have to say, okay, you're good or those are bad, so, for what that's worth. The work sessions in November will bring Sam to us to talk to you about all the different things that happens to Sam and what he does. And then I think it would follow that Joe would be in December, right? And then beginning in the first part of January, for the regular meetings is when students are going to start to come in and talk about the different things that they're doing. 2 more things. Had a advocacy meeting. There's a group of us superintendents and a few others. There's a lobbyist group that the Northeast Ohio ESC has brought in to really talk about how we can begin to make an impact on a few different things that we have, I guess, issues with. One is finances and funding. Another one is school accountability and other things. And so what we're going to look to do, we have some ideas from this group, and it includes superintendents from both the east and west side of town. This is a group that would do more honest, not in your face advocacy, but really trying to talk to our elected officials about the things that we need versus what the position that like an OSBA or a BASA or an OASBO or others take, which is really kind of a passive, we want to be at the table to talk about policies and laws. It doesn't mean that we're going to be aggressive or anything like that, but what we're going to look to try to do, the strategy was pull superintendents and others together, but really bring in local elected officials too, which would include board members, trustees, council folks, and mayors, as well as a way in which to try to get a forum with an elected official like a Senator Dolan or somebody like that, to talk to them about the different things that are impacting our communities as it relates to the legislation that's passed for, that impacts public ed. So that's kind of a cool thing that's going on. And then the last is kind of a neat story. I just wanted to share this with you. We have a neighbor that's 2 doors down from our current administration building, named Gail Weissman was her name. I met her at the appeals meeting, the zoning meeting. She just sat down and heard like Keith and I talking, and then I introduced myself and we had a conversation, and she bought that house down there. If you remember, that property was for sale, and there was a point in time, I think 5 years ago, that the board at that time talked about potentially buying that property because it's strategic and that it butts up kind of where the faculty parking lot is. And so if you were looking strategically at an additional exit, that would have been a way in which to kind of have an additional exit. Nevertheless, she bought the property. She lived in Cleveland, and she wanted to move out of Cleveland and have a nice piece of property, and it was within her budget and everything. So she and I were talking about this administration building, and I'm like, hey, if you ever want to come down for a visit, let me know. And so we set something up today, so she came down to our house, and we talked about a couple different things. She asked me questions about, first I shared what it is that we do. Of course, I plugged benefits-based accountability and the other different things, and then she asked questions like, how are we going to pay for this building? What's the lighting going to look like? The traffic flow, and other different kinds of things. So we had a really good conversation, and then I'm like, hey, do you think I could come down to your place? Because we were going to buy that at one point and see it. So walked down to the neighbor's house, and kind of, she took me through her property, which is a really cool piece of property, and she loves living close to the school district, or just close to the high school. She really appreciates the band, whatever they're playing out there. It kind of brings her joy, and she recognized that they have new songs that they've learned as well. And then she took me to this back area. There's like a guest house that's back there that's kind of a little dilapidated, but she's still slowly working on to kind of like fix it up. And she has like a congregation. She's sort of what she called a rebel Catholic is kind of how she described herself. But when you open up this door, there's like this, it looks like a mini church, like you would have, like, I don't know, a little house on the prairie or something, but a lot smaller. There's like 10 seats in there with hymnals and other things. I'm like, are you a preacher? So she is, and then she showed me some of the other things that she's trying to do there. But the cool thing is I met a neighbor, and then one of the things that she asked was, hey, I'm trying to like put this floor in here and trying to put this bathroom in. Are you able to take some of the things that you would plow down from that board office and donate them or give them to me or somebody like that in order to help me like restore this? Which, I said I would do whatever I could in order to try to do that. We have a process that we don't just chuck stuff into the dumpster, right? We put it out on our site to have people do that. But she has her 501c3 and she has a number. She's a nonprofit and everything and is working through that. But that's the fun story of Gail, who I met today, who's a neighbor 2 doors down.
And you're going to service on Sunday.
She asked me if I was going to do that. I told her that I'm like a recovering Methodist and I don't really do that so much anymore. But if I did, I would go to her service just to kind of see how it is. She seems like a really cool person, and she's supportive of public education and public schools. So that's always a good thing. Has no kids. She's a grandma and moved in our school district. So it's kind of a cool thing. That's all I have, which was quite a bit.
I have a question. Can you, we're supposed to have like a meeting with OSBA about a Zoom meeting or something about,
Oh,
yeah. Can
we
you
talk
talk
about
about
that
that?
So Kelly was at that meeting. It was, I think she felt, I'm not going to say how you felt. It was an interesting meeting. I'll let you know who was there. It was me, it was Kelly, it was Scott Carlo, who's a school board member for Woodridge, and it was Kathy McFarland, who's the CEO of OSBA, along with her legislative team. And, we talked a lot about the different sorts of, first for me it was the approach that they've taken, which is a passive approach. And I think that they ought to be, like if OSBA is involved, I don't think SB 29 comes out the way that it comes out. I don't know how, if they're involved, how does that come out the way that it does? So when they say, we're not super aggressive with our advocacy because we want to have a seat at the table in order to weigh in on policy and law, when I see something like that come out, I get worried that, are they doing that? But their stance was, we don't do that, we want to be behind the scenes and talk about different sorts of things.
I mean, I would say the one thing that they did talk about that I thought was good was that they're working with members of the legislature to sort of bring in accountability tied to public funds.
Right, and so that's the big, for me, I don't think there should be any resources that's given to those private institutions. That's just my gripe.
Like, they're taking a stance. What I took was that if we attach, we know how much regulation and reporting comes with public funds. they're working on the back end to get that in, because you're gonna have private schools that are gonna just be like, we're good, we're not gonna
They
take
get to check out of it. They don't, like, if somebody's upset with the way in which the school district and the board is spending money, they can come to a school board meeting and there's relief. They can tell you that you stink and that you should spend it in a different way. The, $1.7 billion that are going to non-publics, there's not a place for you to go and sit down and tell them that they're spending money incorrectly. So I think first for me, it would be to stop the bleeding and to stop expanding vouchers, and there's a lawsuit that's gonna take care of that. And then the other part is, that which is there ought to be additional controls and accounting and accountability put into place for that. So, as Kelly indicated, they're doing that, and I think, from her vantage point, and I agree with this too, is that I think that in general, people aren't real comfortable with those resources going to pay for private things. I think, in general, people feel that like private choice is choice. And so when you choose that, then you pay for it yourself. And somehow, somewhere, some way, they said, well, we're not gonna do that anymore. And 88% of people who take the voucher were already people who were attending those schools anyway, which to me is just unconscionable. So there's that fight, and then there's the accountability part if they are taking those resources. So we had a good meeting, I think, overall. They are getting together, Kathy McFarland and her group are getting together with a number of different organizations who, in my opinion, take a more passive approach to their advocacy, with the exception of OFT and OEA, who will also be there. And they're going to talk about maybe their renewed approach with the things that are out there right now in public ed and what's happening with public ed whenever you have a person who says we can pretty much do whatever we want to do, which is a concern that a lot of people have. So I think we'll see how that goes. They're going to meet.
I pointed out, I used the example, so we had a meeting at Polaris, our board, and vouchers came up, because somebody asked the question, can somebody use a voucher to come to Polaris, kind of thing, and they're like, no, it only goes to private, but somebody from Polaris, who used to be in the assistant superintendent role there, made a comment, well, that's not a lot of money anyway. And every other board member, absolutely chimed in and said, it's a lot of money and it's more than public schools are getting. And I was shocked and disappointed that this is somebody who is in public education who was not aware.
Yeah, doesn't know. So it's
Doesn't
communication.
know. And what
thing,
I
exactly.
said to them is that if somebody in public education doesn't know, imagine, the populace just doesn't know. So you're not getting, and how do we, I wanted groups like that to start leveraging the media and their contacts to make this a story.
I think, Plain Dealer or Cleveland.com.
Yeah, Laura Hancock, I think her name is, has had a few stories on it. She's the one that originally broke that capital improvement money that was going to St. Ed's of $800,000, and we had to apply, which is not an open grant. No one, that's closed. You have to have a legislator walk that through. Our grant was with the U.S. Agricultural Group that we had to, it was a competitive grant. We got $45,000 for it. I would have loved to have $800,000 or $250,000, and we do great things with it. One is we have accountability with it, whereas they don't have accountability with it.
Nor do we have an endowment.
Nor do we have an endowment. Yeah, that's
Well,
the other thing. And we can't
I
have
had actually several community members approach me about this very topic. And so I referenced the 800,000 versus the 40-something thousand we got. And so then, they followed up with me. They're like, well, we found the $40,000 one that we got, but we couldn't find the 800,000 one that St. Ed's got. I'm like, you won't, because they don't have
Laura
to.
uncovered
They
that.
don't have to report it
Yeah.
like we do.
Nor do they ever have to say what they spent the money on.
Just like
Right.
They could buy
They
their
don't-
administrators all new Mercedes.
you won't get their state test scores, right? Because they don't have to take that. It's all the same. And so remind me again.
I think a typical person would say that doesn't seem right, and I think, the Republicans don't hate public education. They've supported public education forever. And so this group now that seems, this theme that they're kind of trying to dismantle it, concerns me, because I don't think people generally feel that way. People appreciate and support their public schools, regardless of party. So the way that they've set things up doesn't really seem to be right. But again, they said they can do whatever they want, pretty much do whatever they want.
Right.
So, anyway, that's that, Mr. Eckenrode.
More happy days.
Mhm.
Any other questions, comments? All right, we'll move on to hearing of the public.
I guess I can add a funny anecdote to tack on to the story about the school board building. When we were leaving the football game Friday night, I think my son would be in favor of you guys getting in the building.
What is that?
He asked when we were leaving, "Do you know who lives there?" I said, "No, that's kind of the headquarters of, all the schools." He said, "What?" He's like, "That's pretty sus."
Did you say there's 18 people that live there, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that, man.
He thought it was odd that
Sus.
the headquarters was there.
Very sus indeed.
How old is your son?
You have a
He
great
just turned
young
10
man.
yesterday.
Oh, that's fun.
Happy
Happy belated
birthday.
birthday to him, that's
Yeah.
cool. That's pretty sus.
That's great. And that's the office where all the people in charge of your school make all the decisions.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great, thank you. Okay, moving on to agenda item 4, which is our consent agenda, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 4, 5, and 6. So I'll accept the motion to approve the items in consent.
Can I ask one question?
Oh,
After we,
Okay.
yeah, he'll ask for questions.
So moved.
Yeah.
okay. Mrs. Walker,
On C under 6,
6C.
6C. Yes,
can I just get an explanation of that?
yeah, so,
I mean, whatever, I realize there's probably something in there that you.
you wanna go ahead and do
I
that?
can certainly try. As the former director of student services, what this implies.
And I'm only asking
It's a
because
great question.
I know Talawanda school system
Sure,
because my daughter in college lived in a house down the street from
sure.
her.
Oh,
Like,
really?
I know how far away that is.
Huh?
That's Miami
Yes.
University.
Yep.
So when you have students on an educational plan, special education plan, there's the district of residence, there's the district of service. What this is telling me is that the district of service or providing the service to this student is in that district, but their district of residence is here, whether it may be foster care or some type of arrangement in that way. And as the former director, I would also, and sometimes you can't control that, and where the student's last legal guardian lived versus where the student is actually residing. So that means that while we're not providing the service, the district that is, we need to be working with them financially as well. Brett, did I?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this stuff goes through Brett's office.
Yes.
And then if that, let's say it's that situation where maybe it's a foster and the parent or parents live in our district, if they move to another district, I
Correct.
think those charges
Yes.
also transfer.
That's how it would go, and what you want to try to do, obviously, is to be vigilant and go, do you still live there? Do you still live there? That sort of thing.
And we have the ability to do that with the residency officer.
Mm-hmm.
That was, that is a safety, safeguard for us as well. So yes, to Brett's point, if the district of resident or who's living in our district were to move to Strong's, for example, they would then have to enter into that type of agreement.
Back in the day, probably in the 90s, whenever Berea Children's Home was Berea Children's Home, there was what they called the farm, the boys' farm, probably whenever you went to school here. And there would
Not
be,
at the farm, though.
not at the farm, no.
There's a farm next door.
Yeah, there was a farm next door, which is why they
Yeah,
called it
over
the farm,
there
but it was like a group home and for
Yeah, I
boys.
know, I know.
And so
Oh, yeah.
it fell within the confines of this school district, so the students that were there, some of them would come to school here. And a lot of those students, their parents lived in like Cleveland and other different places, so it would be the same kind of thing that we would send.
Cleveland would then be.
They're on the hook for tuition because the parent lives there, but the student
Yeah,
attends here.
it just struck out to me because I saw Talawanda and I'm like, well, that's.
You know, how's that
far
happening,
away.
right?
What's going on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good question.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I would like to make a comment about item number F. The
6F,
6F, yes,
Okay.
the improvements to the baseball things. So I super appreciate that it appears that the Travel Baseball Association and the Community Baseball Softball Commission is paying to fix up these things. And I'd be super appreciative of that. I hope that we remember this, because it seems like every spring, we get notified about how badly we're taking care of the fields. And so if we are like not doing our part, like they're doing their part, we should do our part, like we should be remembering this. Or we could say to them, like, do you want to do more? Or what, I don't know. I just like, every year we get reprimanded for not doing a good job.
We will get reprimanded again this year in the spring.
I'm sure we will.
Not really, there's this time when spring and summer kind of happen and we don't have the extra help that we need in order to maintain facilities. And the way that it works with the staff that we have right now that we pay for, we can always buy more. We can buy more staff. We have 3 people to work on our grounds, and it's take care of Olmsted Falls City Schools grounds and take care of Olmsted Falls City Schools fields. And then there's the recreational fields that sometimes whenever it rains for a week or two and it's not on your rotation, you don't get to it in a timely way that people would want us to get to it, that I would want it to be mowed as well. That's always the problem. That will likely happen this year.
It does every year. I don't know. I just feel like,
I hear you. I don't disagree with you,
I
but
just
that's,
feel like,
there is
you know,
the issue.
is there a way to like, partner with them even more? Say like, hey, this is always gonna happen to us. We're always going to be in that time frame in the spring when it's a lot of rain and we can't keep up with our own stuff. And, you know, just be upfront and say, yeah, recreation is here where our facilities are up. I don't know. I'm just saying, like, I don't want to.
So I'm on the field commission, I can actually speak to this a little bit. So as you know, the field commission is a separate nonprofit and they take care of the maintenance. So basically the Travel Baseball Association, the Rec League, and the Softball League all basically pay into a fund, you know, their share, they divide it up by number of games. There's this outside commission, which Brett Iviola runs and I help with. Basically they hire college students to do the maintenance and stuff, but there's a pretty strict cutoff, like they don't let us into the fields at all until the seasons are over. And so it's like, it's totally different crews and like you'd have to kind of intermingle. And I would say too that if you're going to be asking them to do the maintenance, they'd be wanting to access the fields too, because Olmsted Falls starts really late and it's pretty inconvenient.
I understand.
And that's why they started just being like, hey, if we can't get this, you know, the school doesn't have money for this, can we do it ourselves? But, you know, they're really at the mercy of what, you know, it being on school property and everything and the school schedules. So.
I'm all for trying to figure out a way in which to coordinate and make it better. I just don't know how to do that. And it sounds like you have obviously a lot of
Our helpers
information.
are all college students though too. I mean, so I don't even know how you, like if you get them here in April when you guys are talking about
Right,
like.
exactly. I
Yeah.
don't know. And maybe, right, I'm just,
I think
I
the
guess
point
I'm
is a
just
very
bringing
good
it
one.
up. I'm just bringing it
Yeah.
up. Like, let's not forget, I guess. And it seems like every year we're like, oh, didn't we do this? Or did we not do this? Like, I guess, let's try and remember that they're doing some stuff and we should try our best to do our part.
So what they're doing is dugouts and they're like long needed. So this thing here is at the ECC. They've needed it for a long time. But semi-related, there's that field going up by the community center as well, which just will help everybody. So I don't know if you've seen that, but the fence just went up the last week.
That's the one that's coming out of Singleton's project with that group, right?
Yeah, he kind of passed it off to Brett to help.
Did he
finish
really?
that. Yeah. They were running low on money to be able to finish the job, and Brett, you know, it's like, hey, if we can help you get over the finish line,
Okay.
can we have some input on basically making sure it's done right, so.
Okay, good to know. Yeah, that was a $450,000 project, I think, overall, for that whole area.
Yeah, I think, yeah, at least. Yeah.
All right. Any other questions about any of the items on the consent agenda? All right. Call the vote.
Mr. Fung?
Yes.
Mr. Perez?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mrs. Newman?
Yes,
Mr. Eckernall?
Yes, motion carries. Moving on to agenda item 8A, Brett, this is the fiscal officer certificate you referenced in your report, correct?
That's correct. That's correct. 8A, yeah. So just, you know, I just want to make sure that everybody had the opportunity to see that we're certifying that, again, those assets that we're acquiring with the bond proceeds are eligible. They meet the life expectancy and purpose of the program.
Okay, so that doesn't require action.
That does not require action.
So 8B, approval of the resolution regarding those bonds and the buses. I'll accept the motion.
So moved.
Second.
All agents. Questions, comments? Or the vote? Oh,
There's a series of documents here that, if I could get.
We'll hang out afterwards and
Yeah,
sign.
it'll just take a
Got it,
minute.
all good.
And the funding on that is scheduled for the 29th of October. So we'll get those off to my calendar, not nothing bank tomorrow morning.
great. Go ahead.
Mr. Fung?
Yes.
Mr. Perez? Yes. Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mrs. Newman?
Yes.
Mr. Eckernall?
Yes, motion carries. Item 8C is the biannual appointment of our Southwest Community Health Delegate and alternate. I have done this for the past few years. It's an annual meeting. They put on a nice little presentation, what's going on in the hospital and how it impacts the community. They give you some food. There's sometimes a little breakout meetings if there's things to vote on. It's an hour and a half. If anyone's interested, you don't have to speak up this very moment.
I can do it.
I'll lock that in then.
I mean, what else am I doing?
She's on the record.
Random front.
I did it for years, that was good.
I mean,
It's a cool, it's a
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, it's good.
yeah.
It's
You can see the hospital.
Listen,
and
it's a,
nice,
com-
yeah.
Southwest is quite a community resource. And
It is, and they're
you
good.
wouldn't want
that's
to go.
why
Good
I go
group
to
of
Language
leadership over
Club.
there.
Yeah.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
I see you checked in that building on Facebook, you know,
Like
every day
yeah,
anyway, so.
so.
All right, well, I'll be the alternate for you. Okay, 8D, meeting dates, as Brett referenced, everybody take a look at those, and at some point, email in any concerns. But let's pick either January 9th or 15th, as we sit here today, for our organizational meeting. The 9th is the Thursday. Does anyone have a problem with the 9th, January?
I could
Or
do either,
strong
but I'm leaving on a flight at like, I gotta be on the airplane at 7 a.m. the next day on the 16th. So 15th would be not be my preference. Or the 15th is a Wednesday, we're meeting on Wednesday.
Well, those are the two. Why was
It's a
that?
Thursday and a
Oh,
Wednesday.
no, it's because we have to do it within the first 15 days.
Ah,
That's
okay.
why.
So my preference is the 9th, but I can make either one.
Anybody have a problem with the 9th?
It works.
It is the 9th.
Perfect.
So board meeting on the 9th.
Org meeting on the 9th.
We'll also have our tax budget hearing that same meeting.
Thank you, everybody.
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock. All right, work session, November 6th. Talked about that.
Sam's gonna
be
come
here.
in.
Sam the man, tell him to bring samples or something.
Oh, yeah.
I'll see if he can swing that,
Yeah.
you know.
No real excuse not to bring food.
Brad is his, you know, I'm sorry, Brian is his evaluator, you're gonna have to,
Yeah.
He has already been informed.
Okay.
He said he's got
Should I
a.
We're
send
just
him
saying
some
that,
pictures
the
from the
appetizers
Polaris?
Yeah,
that
right.
These are
The
Kelly and
bar-
Holly's expectations.
The bar's been set by
Yes.
Polaris.
yeah, no, that's good, no, that's good. You need to like lower those expectations.
Chicken and waffles,
Okay.
that's
No,
chicken
no
and
Dolce de
waffles.
leche
the
from
wrappers.
the middle school
It's all good.
cafeteria.
Yes.
Okay, regular meeting on the 21st. Any general discussion by anyone?
I have something. So, when you want to communicate to other people, maybe you give them a coin and you want to like write it like a thank you message.
Yeah.
So it could be this, or it could be something like this. This is not like uberly expensive or anything, but if you want like Kelly Walker Board of Education with the Bulldog, you can do that too. So, I guess
That might be good.
I like that, yeah.
this one,
I do it the small
Yeah.
one,
Small one?
the
Yeah.
smaller one.
Smaller one.
it's all through Olmsted Printing. These are just general, generic kinds of things that we have sent out, but I think these could be kind of a cool thing. They're not expensive. So we'll do that.
Yeah, we could pay for those out of our,
Yeah.
okay.
We're $300,000 up, he said, so.
Well, we have a fund specifically for this sort of thing.
There is, yeah, the
That
stationary.
we rarely use.
So, right, but you'll get those
You
to be able
also
to write
sent
those
us
notes.
about
But the
the,
reason why I say is because Board Member Perez contacted everybody today, or contacted Julianne today. And so we're like, we'll do this, see, we got that taken care of.
What do you mean,
We won the day.
Did you give a coin?
Successful.
Did anyone give a coin
I'm,
yet?
I'm getting ready to give a coin out, and I thought about his personal life.
Still haven't given a coin yet. No
I have
one.
not.
Tomorrow,
Okay, all right.
All right, next meeting, report.
Oh,
All right,
boy.
Please.
All right.
How am I ever gonna be around
We're gonna do
kids?
it. I already
doesn't have
have,
to be
I
a
already have
kid.
plans.
No, community members.
Come to a play, you know.
You're on the school board. I don't, you're never gonna be around kids or teachers or,
I'm trying not.
right, you hear that?
You also said about the holiday tree for the town.
Oh, I
Yes,
saw
that-
that.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, there will be a tree.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah,
like,
I
we do
figured.
that every year,
It's
but.
100.
I get it, I always want to ask, it usually
Yeah.
comes through Kim, Kim's not
Oh,
here, I
I
didn't
thought
pass it on to you, Julianne,
I
I'm
thought-
sure you can do it, but
I
it
thought
usually
it
goes
came through Debbie, but.
Kim,
okay,
Deb
great.
to me, so it came to me.
No, we
I
always
passed it
do.
on to Brett. There'll be a tree,
Any other
a holiday tree.
comments? Holiday, non-denominational holiday tree.
You only, it can be Christmas, I'm
Right.
good with it.
Nothing? Take a motion to adjourn at 7:21. We do not have executive session.
Second.
Mr. Funk?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Perez?
Yes.
Mrs. Newman?
Yes.
Mr. Eckert?
Yes. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Joy.
Thanks, Joy.
Thanks, Julianne.
Thank you.